Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're really glad you could join us.
Absolutely.
Today we're exploring another story from Sydney's Hidden and Forgotten Crimes. I'm your host.
And I'm here to help us delve into the details.
And today's focus, well, it's a tough one. We're looking at the disappearance of Pauline Sowry, a case that stretched over decades, leaving just unimaginable pain in its wake.
It really has. When someone vanishes like that, the uncertainty,
Yeah,
it's relentless.
exactly. And here, especially with these hidden and forgotten cases, we always try to approach them with, real care. Respect for the families is paramount. Pauline's loved ones have waited, well, over 30 years for answers. It's almost impossible to comprehend.
It truly is. So, our mission today for this deep dive is to trace that whole journey. We'll start with her disappearance, the initial confusion.
Right.
Then we'll look at the investigation, the twists and turns, and what ultimately led to this recent breakthrough, the arrest.
And critically, the impact on her family throughout all this.
Absolutely. We've pulled together information from, well, quite a range of sources. Investigative articles, police statements, court documents, which are quite revealing. And importantly, the family's own words, their accounts of this ordeal.
Okay, so the goal is a clear, thorough exploration, respecting the gravity, but also, making sense of it all for you.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Pauline Sowry's initial disappearance. It really was a vanishing act that plunged her family into, well, immediate and lasting agony.
So Pauline Sowry, also known as Pauline Lawrence, that was her married name. She was 49, a mother of 3.
Right. Described as quite vibrant, very connected to her kids.
And she disappeared around Christmas time, December 1993, from Wollongong's northern suburbs.
Wollongong, yeah, south of Sydney, coastal city, Christmas time. That just adds another layer of cruelty, doesn't it?
It really does. A time for family, and suddenly she's gone.
Now, at the time, she'd recently separated from her husband. He was the father of her son, Jason.
Yes, and naturally that's often where police look first in these situations.
Sure, standard procedure.
But it's important to state, he was thoroughly investigated early on. Police officially ruled him out as a person of interest.
Okay, so that avenue closed fairly early. But the initial investigation, it was extensive.
Oh, yes. Interviews with everyone, family, friends. They canvassed the area, put up public appeals, the usual steps.
But nothing solid came back.
No. Her whereabouts just remained a complete mystery. For years.
And the immediate impact? Her son, Jason Lawrence, he's spoken about this. The agony of just waiting.
He has. He described hoping she would just turn up. Imagine that, day after day.
Every phone call, every knock, that mix of hope and dread, it's a unique kind of torture, living with that constant not knowing.
It is, and that state of limbo, officially at least, lasted a very long time.
Yeah, nearly 15 years before there was any kind of, official shift, right?
That's right. It wasn't until 2008 that a coronial inquest was held.
Okay, maybe just quickly explain what a coronial inquest involves here in Australia.
Sure. It's basically a judicial inquiry, not a criminal trial. A coroner looks into a death when the cause is unknown or seems suspicious.
So fact-finding.
Exactly. Trying to determine who died, how, when, where, and the medical cause.
And in Pauline's case?
The coroner, Ian Guy, concluded that on the balance of probabilities, basically, more likely than not, based on the evidence, Pauline had died.
Right.
He suggested her death probably happened sometime after an unconfirmed sighting of her in 1994.
Okay, so a finding of death, but that wasn't the end of the mystery.
Not at all. That's the crucial part. Despite finding she had died, the specifics, the exact date, the place, the manner, the cause, all unknown.
And the biggest question, where was she?
Completely unknown. Her body hadn't been found, still hasn't been found, actually.
Which must have been just gut-wrenching for the family.
Jason Lawrence called it a bittersweet moment. You can understand why.
Yeah, like a legal conclusion, but no real peace.
Precisely. He said it felt like a final chapter in years of sadness, but it didn't give them the full answers needed to properly grieve.
He felt robbed, didn't he? Robbed of his mother, robbed of her being a grandmother.
Yes, robbed of a mother and robbed of a grandmother to my children. A really profound statement of that ongoing loss.
And Pauline's father, Bill Sowry, he was there too.
He was. He spoke about the roller coaster ride of emotion they'd been on, acknowledged it brought some closure, but, nothing could change the fundamental tragedy.
And when you talk about the family, the impact,
Mm.
It goes so much deeper than just that initial loss, doesn't it? It's this compounding tragedy.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about what psychologists call ambiguous loss, that grief when someone is physically gone but psychologically still present because there are no answers.
Right. You can't really mourn properly.
Exactly. And Jason Lawrence, he's been very open about the immense sorrow that followed. It wasn't just losing his mother.
No, his two brothers, Pauline's other sons, Paul and Adam.
Tragically, yes. Both passed away due to severe mental health issues.
And that was directly linked to their mother's disappearance.
Explicitly linked, according to the family and medical professionals. The emotional devastation, the constant uncertainty, it just took an immense toll.
God, imagine that strain, day in, day out, not knowing, not being able to say goodbye. It's just relentless.
It is a truly heartbreaking ripple effect. It shows the hidden destructive power of these unresolved cases.
And Pauline's parents, too, Bill and Pat Sowry, they also passed away.
They did, without ever knowing what happened to Pauline or where she was laid to rest.
That's just cruel. A legacy of unresolved grief passed down.
It really is. And Jason's words about missing out on his mom being a grandmother to his 5 kids, his niece.
All those moments, birthdays, holidays, just everyday life.
Yeah, the special moments lost. His statement about being robbed of a normal life, I don't wish it on anybody. It's so stark.
It really hammers home the deep, quiet suffering families endure in these situations. It can destroy lives long after the person disappears.
And it's a chilling fact that while time passes, evidence fades, memories blur, a family's hope for answers, that rarely diminishes.
No, you hold on to that.
Cold cases like Pauline's are incredibly hard. Witnesses move or pass away. Evidence degrades. Leads go cold.
But this one wasn't forgotten, especially not by the family.
No, they kept advocating, kept her memory alive, and then finally a major shift in the official investigation.
Right, Strike Force Anthea.
Established in 2022, nearly 3 decades after she vanished.
Wow, 30 years. That's a serious commitment.
It really signifies a renewed push, a dedicated NSW police unit specifically formed to re-examine everything.
Fresh eyes, new techniques.
Exactly. Fresh eyes, modern forensics potentially, new resources. It wasn't just dusting off old files. It was a full-scale reevaluation of every single piece of information.
Which is a massive undertaking.
Huge. And it shows remarkable persistence, for a case that had been dormant for so long.
And that renewed focus, Strike Force Anthea, it led to tangible action, didn't it? Actual searching.
Oh, yes. Incredibly meticulous, repeated searches. This wasn't just a quick look around.
Where were they searching?
The Illawarra escarpment down at Fig Tree, south of Wollongong. It's rugged country, dense bushland.
Tough terrain to search.
Very challenging. And they went back multiple times, March and May 2023, then again in October 2024.
So, large-scale, coordinated efforts over months.
Absolutely. Think manpower, canine units, maybe even things like ground-penetrating radar, whatever they needed.
And did these searches yield anything?
They did. This was a significant breakthrough. They found and seized items of clothing believed to belong to Pauline Sowry.
Wow. After all that time, tangible evidence.
Exactly. Incredibly powerful in a case this old, a physical link found in a location that could be key. It gives investigators something concrete to work with.
And they also put out new public appeals.
Yes, trying to jog memories. They asked specifically about a car, a white 1968 Holden HK Kingswood sedan, described as pristine.
A 68 Kingswood. Quite distinctive.
Very. They thought Pauline might have been traveling in it around the time she disappeared. It shows that even decades later, new leads, new information can surface when you really push for it.
Yeah, that one small detail could be the key.
It absolutely could. And that brings us to a really important strategy in cold cases. How do you get that crucial information after so much time has passed?
Yeah, people's lives change, loyalties shift.
Exactly. And one powerful tool is offering a substantial reward.
Which they did in Pauline's case.
Yeah.
$500,000, wasn't it?
AU $500,000, announced in March 2024. And it wasn't just the police, it was a joint thing with the NSW government.
Shows a high level of commitment.
Definitely. The reward was broad, too, for info leading to an arrest and conviction, or just helping solve her disappearance or death, casting a wide net.
They clearly thought someone out there knew something.
They did. It was a signal that they believed a breakthrough was within reach, if the right incentive was there.
And the thinking behind that reward, it was quite specific, wasn't it? Assistant Commissioner Darren Brand talked about it.
He did. He basically said he believed there were people in the community who know exactly what happened to Pauline. And he hoped their personal circumstances might have changed over the years. Maybe our relationship ended. Maybe they needed the money. Maybe their conscience was finally getting to them.
Makes sense. Time can change perspective.
Absolutely. And Minister Catley put it bluntly. 500,000 more reasons to contact police.
Pauline's son, Jason, he hoped this would be it, didn't he? The thing that finally prompted someone to talk.
He voiced that hope very publicly, desperate for answers, for closure.
And while the eventual arrest wasn't solely down to the reward.
No, it's usually a combination of factors in these cases. But the reward undoubtedly helped. It re-energized the investigation, boosted public awareness.
Which led to new tip-offs, like the car.
Exactly. It creates that pressure, that buzz, which can sometimes shake long-held secrets loose, crucial in cold cases. So all this effort, Strikeforce Anthea, the searches, the appeals, the reward, it all built towards this major development.
The arrest.
Yes. Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Around 8:30 in the morning.
Where did it happen?
Wollongong police went to a unit on Murphy's Avenue in Gwynville, Wollongong.
And they arrested a man.
A 64-year-old man identified as Leon Boyan.
Leon Boyan. And the police confirmed he knew Pauline.
Yes, Southern Region Assistant Commissioner Joe Cassar stated Boyan had a connection to Pauline in the past. That was the crucial link they'd uncovered.
Shifting it from a missing person case to, well, something much darker.
Precisely, a homicide investigation. A massive moment for everyone involved, especially the family and the police team.
And the charges against Boyan, they're quite specific, aren't they? Tell us about those.
Yes, two very serious charges. First, accessory after the fact to murder.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means police allege he knew about the murder and actively helped the person or people who committed it to avoid getting caught. Covering for them, essentially.
Right. And the second charge?
Conceal serious indictable offense. Basically, hiding evidence or information about a major crime, actively obstructing justice for decades.
So, not charged with the murder itself, but with helping cover it up.
Oh, that's what the charges allege, yes. It points to a deep, long-term involvement in the aftermath.
And he was refused bail straight away.
Yes. Refused police bail, appeared in Wollongong local court the next day, Friday, May 30th.
Assistant Commissioner Cassar must have felt, well, vindicated.
He certainly praised his officers, talked about their tireless commitment, their persistence and effort. He mentioned fulfilling that promise he'd made to leave no stone unturned.
A powerful moment for the police, showing that persistence pays off, even after 30 years.
Then came the bail application in court. That's where we started hearing more details.
Right. The defense argued for his release.
Yes. His lawyer, Matt Ward, put forward several points. Boyan's vulnerability, he has a schizophrenia diagnosis, his age 64.
Okay.
Also, the long time he'd likely wait for trial, arguing detention would be too harsh. And he pointed out Boyan had a clean record for the last 8 years, always showed up for court before low flight risk, essentially.
But the prosecution opposed bail. Strongly.
Very strongly. Crown Prosecutor Catherine Gray raised serious concerns. She mentioned Boyan's alleged track record of interfering with police investigations.
Interfering? How?
Gray stated police had evidence he'd already approached prosecution witnesses. That's a huge red flag for the court.
Wow. Okay, yeah, you can't have that.
Exactly. She argued the court couldn't trust him to comply with bail conditions or not tamper with the case further.
So bail was refused.
Yes, the magistrate agreed with the prosecution, refused bail, so Boyan remains in custody.
And the case is ongoing.
Adjourned for further mention on July 30th at Wollongong local court. It's just the start of a long legal process.
But those court proceedings, they revealed some really stark details, didn't they? About how the police built their case.
They really did. One of the most significant revelations was that police had secretly recorded Leon Boyan.
Recorded him where?
Inside his own home, making admissions apparently related to his involvement.
Secret recordings. That's powerful evidence.
Incredibly powerful, obtained through legal surveillance warrants, of course. It gives investigators a direct window into potentially incriminating conversations.
And what did he allegedly say on these recordings?
The court heard he spoke about how what happened was horrible. And quite significantly, he expressed concern about his associates possibly claiming the reward money at his expense.
Worrying about being betrayed. That suggests others were involved.
It certainly implies that, and even more chillingly, the court heard Boyan allegedly knows who the killers are.
What he won't say.
He declined to reveal their identities, citing fears for his own safety.
Wow. So a complex situation.
Yeah.
Fear, potential associates.
Yes. And the allegation is he assisted these individuals after the murder, helping them avoid detection, hence those specific charges, accessory after the fact and concealing the offense. And connecting the dots, the court also heard about the alleged motive. After all these years, a possible reason why.
Okay, what was the alleged motive?
Money. Magistrate Leslie William Mabbitt stated during the testimony that Pauline Sowry had come into money in June 1994.
June 94. That's a month after she was last seen around Christmas 93.
Exactly. This inheritance or windfall, whatever it was, is now believed to be the catalyst.
So an argument about this money.
That's the allegation. An argument took place. Things escalated.
And then?
She was allegedly taken from a unit on Gray Street in Winona
Taken where?
to bushland on O'Brien's Road, Fig Tree, the same area where those clothing items were later found, and that's where she was allegedly murdered.
Oh, God. So it all starts to form a horrifying picture. Argument over money, abduction, murder, cover-up.
That's the narrative presented in court, yes. Still, allegations, of course, needs to be proven, but it provides a chillingly plausible sequence of events after decades of mystery.
And there was another layer revealed in court, wasn't there? Something about contact with Jason, her son, after she was allegedly killed.
Yes, another truly disturbing detail. About 2 months after Pauline was allegedly murdered.
So sometime later in 1994.
Presumably, Leon Boyan allegedly contacted Jason Lawrence,
Contacted him. Why?
asking him to come and collect Pauline's belongings.
Her belongings. But what did he tell Jason?
He allegedly told Jason that Pauline had simply left, and he didn't know where she had gone.
Just left. A complete lie, if the allegations are true.
A calculated deception designed to reinforce the idea she disappeared voluntarily and maintain the cover-up.
And did Jason collect your things?
Apparently, an unknown male handed over Pauline's handbag to Jason at Boyan's home.
So adding to the illusion she'd just packed up and gone, how incredibly cruel.
It's deeply callous, inflicting that extra layer of confusion and pain on a family already desperate for answers. Remember, she'd recently separated from her husband.
Right, so that detail might have been used to make the leaving story seem more believable at the time.
Potentially. It just adds another dimension of alleged manipulation and cruelty to the whole thing. Confronting Jason with her handbag while allegedly knowing the truth, it's hard to fathom. So for Jason Lawrence and the rest of the family, this arrest, it's huge, obviously, but it's not simple relief, is it?
No, it sounds incredibly complex. Jason said he felt like the world's been lifted off my shoulders, getting closer to closure.
You can understand that feeling after 30 years. But Assistant Commissioner Kassar used that phrase, bittersweet.
Yeah, because while there's an arrest, an alleged motive, Pauline is still missing.
Exactly. Her body hasn't been found. And that means the final, complete closure they need is still out of reach.
Jason said they still long to know where she is, what exactly happened.
Yes, the where, the how, the what took place. Those fundamental questions remain. He reiterated missing his mother every day, the toll on the entire family.
That raw grief, it's still there, isn't it? Because they can't lay her to rest. And this really brings home that bigger question. What is the true cost, the unseen cost of an unresolved missing persons case?
It's immense. Psychologically, emotionally, it's a relentless burden. That state of ambiguous loss we talked about.
Right. No clear beginning or end to the grief. No body to mourn.
Exactly. It prevents the natural grieving process. There are no rituals, no grave to visit, no tangible place to say goodbye. Families are left in limbo.
Constantly searching, unable to move on.
Yes. And think back to Jason's story, losing his brothers, his grandparents, all while carrying this uncertainty about his mother. It's a weight that just grinds people down.
Which is why finding remains is so incredibly important. It's not just about solving a crime, is it?
Not at all. It's about basic human dignity, closure, the ability to finally say goodbye properly, to lay someone to rest. It allows that healing process, however difficult, to actually begin. Now, stepping back from Pauline's specific case for a moment, it's worth touching on how missing persons cases are generally handled, because sometimes broader issues can influence things.
Okay.
One factor is something called perceived seriousness. It's basically a subjective judgment made by police units about the level of risk a missing person might be in.
A judgment call.
Kind of. And this perception can, sometimes unfortunately, affect the resources allocated. For example, if someone from a low socioeconomic background is seen as having a high-risk lifestyle.
Their case might be treated with less urgency initially.
Potentially. It might lead to slower response times, fewer resources compared to someone from, say, an affluent background perceived as low risk. It's not necessarily conscious bias, but it can be a systemic issue related to resource allocation.
That's a really critical point, and sources do suggest that sometimes, well, discrepancies happen. Affluent areas or individuals might tend to get more investigative muscle.
It's a concern that's been raised that the judgment call about seriousness or even societal value could lead to fewer resources or slower responses in some communities.
Which just adds the agony for families who feel their loved one isn't getting the same attention.
Absolutely. And layered on top of that, particularly in Australia, are concerns about racial bias.
Right. Relatives of missing Aboriginal youth have spoken about this.
They have, noting that racist stereotypes can influence the amount of attention the case receives, suggesting implicit biases might affect how diligently some cases are pursued right from the start.
It's a really difficult and important aspect to acknowledge. So how does Pauline Sowry's case fit into this? The Illawarra isn't exactly Sydney's North Shore.
No, it's generally considered more working class, yet her case, despite that background, did eventually receive massive attention. Strikeforce Anthea, the huge reward.
So a comprehensive investigation did happen, albeit decades later.
It did. Perhaps because it was always treated as a suspicious disappearance rather than just someone wandering off, which might have elevated its priority from the beginning, regardless of background.
So it highlights that while systemic biases are a real concern, we need to be aware of.
Determined efforts, driven by family persistence and dedicated police work, can still overcome those barriers and achieve breakthroughs. It offers some hope, even in these complex situations.
So wrapping up this deep dive on Pauline Sowry, it really underscores the incredible dedication needed to pursue these Sydney's hidden and forgotten crimes. It's been a long, painful road for her family.
Immensely painful.
We've seen huge progress with Leon Boyan's arrest, the alleged motive finally emerging in court. That's a massive step towards justice after more than 30 years.
It is a testament to not giving up.
But, and this is the crucial, heartbreaking point for her family, Pauline's body still hasn't been found.
No. And that means that full, final closure remains agonizingly out of reach for them. They're still living with that ambiguous loss, and the police echo this. They believe, strongly, that someone out there still holds vital information that could lead them to Pauline.
So we really want to make a direct, heartfelt plea now to you listening. If you have any information at all about Pauline Sowry's disappearance, something you saw, something you heard, maybe something someone told you years ago that didn't seem important then,
No matter how small or insignificant you think it might be.
especially anything that could help locate her,
Yeah.
please come forward. That one piece you hold could be the final piece of the puzzle.
It could bring Pauline home, finally allow her family to lay her to rest.
You can contact Crime Stoppers completely anonymously. The number is 1-800-333-000.
Or you can report online at https://nsw.crimestoppers.com.au. It's confidential. You don't have to give your name.
Please, if you know anything, make that call.
The Pauline Sowry case is such a stark reminder, isn't it? Time passes, but the truth doesn't vanish. And a family's need for answers certainly doesn't diminish.
Not at all. So maybe a final thought for you to take away. Knowing that one piece of information, maybe something someone has held on to for decades, could finally end this long nightmare for a heartbroken family. What might you do today if you held such a key?